Well, good morning. Hey there. How y'all doing this fine morning? I'll say fine with big air quotes around it today, because man, has it been a night. So I'm at the Peck Corner Shelter. This is the morning of my second day of round 5. And I got everything. I got in here on time last night. I made dinner. I got into my dry sleep clothes. I took my wet clothes from yesterday off, and I've got them hanging up behind me still. And they're about dry now. And I put all of my smelly stuff back in my backpack, put the cover on it, hung it up on the bear line, and went to sleep pretty early actually. I got to bed by 7 or 8, and I was whooped. So I slept pretty well until about 4 a.m. And at 4 a.m., it started to rain. Now, the nice thing about the shelters is they have metal roofs on them, so the minute it starts to rain, you hear it. So it woke me. It wasn't raining very hard, so I had a little momentary debate. Do I go fetch my pack off the bear line so that it stays dry and I can fix breakfast in case this rain goes on for a while, or do I leave it out there and I decided to go get my backpack down off the bear line at about 4:15, and it was sprinkling, but I didn't even have to put a raincoat on or anything. It was fine. No sooner did I get back in the shelter though than it cut loose, and as I'm making this video right now, it is 7:30. 3.5 hours, probably more like 4 hours, because it had rained a little bit before I got up out of the bed. So this is 4 hours, and it's been raining solid for 4 hours, and I mean solid. Sometimes heavy enough to remind me a little bit of Helene, thunder, lightning, downpours that were deafening, and now it's 7:30, and now it's 7:30, 7:45 or so, and I need to get dressed and get out of here. So I may be hiking in the rain today. I could wait it out for a little. Well, I will wait it out for a little while. I think if I'm on trail by 9:30, I can still do my 13 for today. But yeah, this is and it's a pretty serious rainstorm. And the forecast did say there was a pretty good chance of rain today, but not for this long a period of time. So I have enough food. If I had to stretch this leg out for 3 days instead of 2 days to get me into a standing bear hospital, I could do that. But I'm hoping not to have to do that. So about Peck's Corner Shelter, a word on that. It's a double-decker shelter, but the top deck is pretty short to the bottom deck, so I banged my head a couple of times sitting up. It is a nice Great Smoky Mountains National Park shelter, so it has this huge covered eating area and sitting area, so I can get dressed like I'm going to do here in a minute and pack up without worrying about getting wet. There is not a water source directly at the shelter. Now, today there probably would be. There's a little stream that runs past over by some hitching posts for horses. It's probably got water in it now, but yesterday I collected water on the way in. So there's an intermittent stream that's labeled on far out. It's about 2/10 of a mile after you turn down the access trail to the shelter. And then the shelter's another 2 or 3/10 off trail from there. So Peck's Corner Shelter is about 4/10, they say. I think it's more like half a mile off of the trail, and it's a pretty good climb out of here this morning. So that'll be fun, in the rain with a wet trail first thing in the morning. Should wake my body up though by the time I get back to the trail. Yeah, there are a couple of hitching posts for horses, so I assume that means that this is one of the shelters that has a horse trail nearby, and so it may be that sometimes folks share this shelter with equestrian fans. There's a privy, which is back up the trail another 1/10 of a mile uphill from where the shelter is, that I'll use on the way out. And there are 2 sets of bear cables with 4 or 5 cables apiece just past the shelter, but not very far. Oh, and there's no cell service here at all. I got 0 bars on Verizon. Maybe some other carrier has it, but you're definitely deep in the wilderness part of the park at this point. Yeah, if you want that real Appalachian Trail backcountry camping experience, this is a good place to get it. This northern half of the stretch through the Smokies is pretty nice trails, but you're definitely out there in the wilderness. Or I'm definitely out here in the wilderness, so it feels very nice.
Well, it's 10 o'clock and I am finally back on trail. I'm about 2 hours behind my planned schedule. I'm headed to the right here towards the Balsam Mountain Trail and the Tri-Corner Shelter. That's about, I think the shelter is actually 5.1 miles. And I'll stop and take a pack off break there. But I'm all watered up. The rain has stopped. I don't even have the umbrella up at this point, nor the raincoat on. I'm hiking in a buff this morning on my head instead of a baseball cap. Baseball cap didn't quite dry out last night, but everything else did. And there's my first blaze of the day. That one looks like it's freshly repainted too. So, like I said in an earlier clip, which I assume I've shown by now, it rained just like the dickens all night last night. Thunder and lightning and pouring down rain. But I got my pack in and just kind of started my day slow and early. Got everything dried out inside the shelter and have started my hike now to Cosby Knob, which is about 13 miles from here. So the fact that I'm not getting started till 10 means distance is going to be a little bit of an issue today. But I think I'll probably still make it by 7. Sun didn't really go down until 7:30 and really didn't get dark till 8. So, and since I'm in the park and I'm required to stay in a shelter, and given the icky conditions, I'd probably be staying in a shelter regardless. But you can see how the trail in front of me is kind of a little stream. And as much as I got everything dried out, even the shoes and socks pretty much, that's not going to hold for a couple of hours. But even as I'm walking, you can see I don't know if you can tell, but the sun is coming up and burning off the clouds a little bit. It's brighter and brighter every couple of minutes. And I'm hoping that for at least today, maybe Mother Nature has dumped all the water on this part of the world that she feels the need to dump on it. And I get some nice morning scenes like I have sometimes in the past as she burns off the fog. I would say the little birdies have been around all over this morning chirping at me, as if encouraging me to go hit the trail. Like that. I don't know what these are. They look like a kind of viburnum. But there are a whole set of flowers which are coming into bloom now in the fall. So as much as the rhododendrons and the azaleas are pretty much spent now. Here's a little sampling of goldenrod. Stepping on each side of the trail here, trying to stay out of the mud for as long as I can today. Temperature's probably mid-50s, at least it was last night. I don't think late yesterday, I don't think it got up above 65 up here in the mountains, so it wasn't chilly. I had my 30-degree Nemo sleeping bag, which I really just slept in with unzipped like a quilt, and it was fine. So But I've started this uphill part, heading up to the Tri-Corner Knob Shelter from where I started from Peck's Corner is 5 miles, and it's mostly uphill. But I don't think it's steep or technical too much. It's mostly like this. But I'll put the phone away now so I don't slip on any of these freshly wet rocks. I don't know how well they'll show up on camera, but this tree directly in front of me has a whole bunch of bright orangish red berries on it. And I have been seeing these all up and down the trail on the trees, but also in the bear scat. So I don't know what kind of tree that is, but I know the bears certainly like them. And they certainly are brightening up my morning. I am enjoying it so far. Every couple of minutes I can see further up the trail, and I can see sky, or at least lighter areas clear up at the end of the trail, hundreds of yards ahead, with some light, not sunlight, but some light coming through the trees at the top of this small climb here. Lots of reminders that Hurricane Helene was not the first big storm to come through this part of our national forest and demolish some big old trees. Because these folks here have clearly been down for a long time. I do love the combination of lichen, I think is what some of that is, and moss. Plants in some cases just go right to work on these trees, turning them back into fuel for the next generation of the forest. So this is what it looks like when Data hikes in a buff instead of a hat. I'm doing this today because I don't really need the brim of the hat, and it didn't seem to keep the sweat off my brow as much as yesterday. So even though it's cool, I'm still sweating a fair amount when I get going uphill, especially, I almost exclusively. So this will do a better job, I think, of keeping that off of me. And I made it to Eagle Rocks, which I'll show you next. So this is a waypoint marked on far out called Eagle Rocks. And it's a really beautiful limestone viewing point with places it looks like you could crawl out on and see if you could see anything. But clearly it's all socked in still this morning, but it did give me a chance to put the poles down, hydrate, do a mileage assessment. I've climbed now to Eagle Rocks is something over 5,800 feet elevation, and I'm going up to as high as I think 62 or 63 today, maybe even 64 by the time I get up to the peaks at about 7 miles in. So So I am at mile 2.2, north of Peck's Corner Shelter, and this is the first blowdown that I've come across. Just in case anybody from the park sees this. This looks fresh. I don't think this is, you guys have, I mean, the trail maintenance staff in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park has just done an amazing job given the storms this year and Helene last year. The trail has been in extremely good shape. The treadway is really well maintained, and the shelters have been good too. So this is the first blowdown I've come across, and it looks pretty fresh, given the little splinters hanging off of things and stuff. And that storm last night was pretty fierce, and there have been a couple of others recently. This also looks like an area kind of prone to blowdowns. So it's been a good day. Again, 2.2 miles in the first hour, which is a little bit of uphill, more downhill than I thought, so about the same amount of uphill as downhill. Now I'm headed back uphill. This is kind of the big climb of the morning over the next 3 or 4 miles, but I'm at 2.2, and at mile 5.5 of my hike for the day, I will get to Tri-Corner Knob Shelter, where I intend to take a pack-off break and assess condition and dryness and weather and make a plan for the rest of the day. I had thought if it was storming really horrible like it had been last night, I'd just spend the night there and then have my last day in the Smokies be like 17 miles. But I don't think I'm going to have to worry about that now. We'll see if the weather holds, knock wood. Hope I'm not tempting the trail gods or anything. But anyway, I'm gonna hydrate. I may have a little bit of a snack here, and then I'm going to get on my way. I don't know if the light-colored things on this tree are just it decaying, or if that's some kind of a bacteria or a fungus or something that's busy growing on this old dead tree. But sometimes Mother Nature just provides you with artwork right along the trail. Every now and again the sun comes streaming through the mist, and I keep trying to flip the camera on just in time to catch it, but as quickly as I do that, it goes away. Puts me in mind of a line from an old Robert Frost poem about a traveler on a train who sees some flowers by the edge of the train track and can't quite identify them. I don't remember the whole poem. Maybe I'll put it up here on the screen. But it ends with the 2 stanzas. When the traveler realizes that they will not ever identify what the flowers were that went by so quickly on the train, perhaps the Almighty leaves his glimpses to those not in position to look too close. Here come those rays of sunlight. Not being a patient man in general for most of my life, the Appalachian Trail is teaching me patience. That is for sure. It's 11:30. And I'm at 3 miles, so I'm still moving at a 2-mile-an-hour pace, despite having now made my second ascent of about 1,000 feet in that past half a mile or so. So I'm about a little past the halfway point to Tri-Corner Knob Shelter, and the sun came out a little bit as I crested that ridge. Here's a kind of a flower that I've seen only on this trip and only at higher altitudes. I don't know what that is, and it looks like the flowers haven't quite opened up yet, but maybe I'll look that up online and find out. And then there's a yellow one often pretty close to it. I don't know what those are, but I'm enjoying that there are late season flowers in bloom. There also are a few species of trees, like these, which are already getting their fall color, even though we're just the beginning of September. So, interesting watching Mother Nature have some things just come into bloom and other things dying off for the year. I'm seeing a lot of blowdowns that are kind of like this, where you Top of the tree still got a lot of green on it. And you can still see the roots pretty fresh under it, so probably came down in the past year, if not more recent than that. And at least it fell away from the trail, but I am seeing a bunch of those. I'm hiking without the pack cover or the umbrella on today, or my raincoat. Given the weather conditions at 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., I thought I'd be having to use all of that rain gear. By the time I hit trail at 9:30, 10 o'clock, I didn't need any of it, and knock wood now. At 11:30, I still haven't needed any of it. Let's hope that continues. Also gives me a better chance to shoot some of the pretty scenery. Hard to do that when it's raining. It's 1 o'clock, and I have made it to the Tri-Corner Knob Shelter, where I'm going to take a little pack-off break. It's about an hour faster than I thought I was going to make it here when I started this morning. So the trail is really pretty nice and hikeable today. I've noticed a sign backed away that said there's a horse hitching post about 500 feet away. So I think this is another one of the shelters that I share with the equestrian fans of the trail, which might be why it's graded a little bit differently. And there's no one here, which is kind of what I expected. This is a really big shelter. The outdoor eating area is much larger than some of the other ones I've been at, and it does have kind of a short two-story sleeping area, but it's not bad. Somebody's had a fire here recently because I can still smell it. And there's a little stream right out front, which, given all the current rain, has enough water in it, I'll be able to collect water here. Boil all water or filter it, and the toileting area is off to the right, which probably means a privy, but I don't need that. But it's nice that there's a stream right in front of it that's got water in it. That's the upside of all the rain that we've had. Some pretty orange flowers off here in the distance. I don't know what these are. That's new to me today. I did get a few bars. Oh, it's even a piped spring. Oh, yes. Oh, right here at the shelter. So here's the front of the Tri-Corner Knob Shelter. You can see the sun is burning off the mist, but I had a couple of bars up at the last hilltop, and they told me there's a 50% chance of rain at 2 and 3 o'clock. So I was always planning a break here. I think I'm going to take that break now. I may sit here for a while to see if that storm hits in earnest, and then hike on after it passes over. So now I've kind of lazied around for about 45 minutes at the Tri-Corner Knob Shelter. It's a really nice shelter. Somebody had told me that it had a low sleeping area ceiling, and it does, but other than that, I'm liking it a lot. I'm filtering some water now, just gravity feeding it from my 3-liter CNOC into my Smart Water bottle that I collected from a pipe spring over there. And I've had a pack off, shoes off break for most of this, about half an hour. One of the things that's really nice about Tri-Corner is that it has a skylight over the whole center section. And it's also much deeper than a lot of the other shelters, so that the space from where the sleeping platforms are, where there's a bench on one side, and then on the other side there's a fireplace, And that space is much deeper than in the last shelter I was in, and then I think most of the shelters here in the Smokies. So the outer area is really nice. For instance, if you were stuck here like I was last night at the other shelter in a storm, and that one was also pretty deep, but this would be a good shelter to, if you need to get in and out of the weather to hunker down at. It's also, as I showed on a video hopefully a minute or so ago, it's not very far off trail. And then the last treat for me in this segment was that off in the distance there you might just see that there's a view now. Maybe the camera will or will not pick it up, I don't know. But I can see over to the next ridge right here. There are storms forecast, but right now the weather's pretty nice, so I'm going to gear back up. Well, folks, it took till 2:30 in the afternoon, but the sky is finally cleared enough that I have a view. I'm really starting out of the tri-corner knob shelter on what is really my last ascent of the day. It's pretty steep. Well, it's a 1,000-foot climb up about 6,400 or 6,600 feet, but it's gradual, and it keeps kind of going up and down a little bit. This is one of those examples I was telling you before when I mentioned that I was hiking on a ridge line for a lot of this. So if I look off to the trail this way, it goes straight down, and if I look off to the trail on the other side, it goes pretty much straight down. So I've seen a lot of this today where over the decades, centuries, trees are just growing right out of the rock. Like this tree, in order to get to soil, is on top of this rock with a little bit of soil and had to send its roots all the way down the front of that rock. And there are a whole set of them like that along here. So it's no wonder that in a storm with a fair amount of wind, some of these get uprooted and turned over. I think the rocks really control what happens on this trail, in this part of this trail, more than the trees and the evergreen parts of the forest. Off this direction to the west, you'll probably hear the thunder. And it's probably ill-advised for me to take a photo minute, but I got to this spot and there's actually a pretty nice view today, and I haven't had too many of these, so I'll appreciate this when I'm up here. I have about 4 miles left to the Cosby Knob Shelter, and it's a coin toss about whether I beat this storm front in there or not, but it does look like it's coming from behind me and maybe moving to the east-southeast. I can't tell exactly, but it sort of looks that way. That's how the storm moved yesterday too. So, well, off in the distance I have a view, but as you can probably hear, it's 3:45 and the rain has caught up to me. So I still have 4 miles to go this way, but that's level and that's downhill, and almost all of this part of this hike is downhill. So that's probably 2 hours of hiking at the rate I've been going today. Puts me into the camp about 4:30 or 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and I just hope I don't get drenched in the process. So, but it's been a good day hiking so far. This is the first rain, and it's, I'm almost there, so I'm feeling pretty lucky. A little goldenrod, I think is what that is, along the side of the trail here. Some birch trees with moss all over them. Birdies are still chirping, so they can't be too worried about it. And I've got the umbrella on, and I'm not going to worry about the pack cover or any other rain gear. I'm just going to go with the umbrella and I hope that I get there before the worst of it hits. So here goes. It's about 5 o'clock, and I've got a mile to go, and I have just come across a massive root ball, which I'm sure was part of the Helene damage. On the other side of that is a great big old tree that came up by its roots and tipped over. And there are several others in this area that they had to cut off to clear a trail for us all to hike through, which they've done a nice job of. And I don't think I would have stopped to film this, except this root ball is the 6th or 7th at least that I've seen in this stretch of the trail, and all of them this large with a bunch of secondary debris around them. So I think it's safe to say that I have hiked myself into the edge of the Hurricane Helene disaster zone here. Not as bad as what they had up north, but still much worse than what I've seen to date. So Parks Department seems to have done a nice job of cutting through those, but even once you get the path clear, people can hike the trail all they want. Mother Nature's going to take her sweet time about decomposing those things. It's a lot of organic matter to process right there. So this is data from the end of day 2 of round 5 of my section hikes for 2025. I went from Peck's Corner Shelter to Cosby Knob Shelter today in about 8 hours. I had expected at about 8.6, so I'm pretty happy with that. As you probably saw on the rest of this video, it was a really nice day for hiking. Overcast, but not raining until about 4 o'clock. Then it rained like the dickens from 4 till 6, which is about when I got to the shelter. But you know, I had the umbrella, which, again, big fan of the umbrella. I thought it was kind of a gimmicky thing for a long time, but now that I've tried it, I'm a convert. Right about 4 o'clock, when it started to sprinkle, I threw the umbrella on my arm strap, on my shoulder strap, and kept everything basically above the midline of my chest dry, and also no water down my back for the whole. And today was a storm. For a little while at the very beginning, there was hail, or at least grapple, little hard things falling out of the sky, banging off of the umbrella. It was kind of funny. But I got here in good time, and I've had dinner and hung my food bag up on the bare line outside. And tomorrow's supposed to be a overwhelmingly sunny day and almost zero chance of rain almost the whole day. So I have 10.4 to go tomorrow from the Cosby Knob Shelter here to Standing Bear Hostel, where I have reserved one of the, I think they call it a treehouse room. There are 2 single rooms on top of each other. And I'm looking forward to that. I can get a shower and a decent meal and clean my clothes and dry things out a little bit. And it's only 10.4 miles. It's almost all downhill. So should go pretty quick. I don't know much else here from the trail. I hope y'all had a good day. I certainly did have a good day. I'm glad I'm out here hiking. And for that, all I got to say is happy trails to all of you. See you tomorrow.